Hello and welcome to another episode of the What's This About podcast. I'm your host, Andy White, and this is episode number 3. My special guest today is my friend Lauren Hansen. She goes by the title Astrobetch on Instagram, where you can find her, and she talks all things astrology. So anytime I need an answer about my sun sign, my moon sign, or what's going on with the universe, I reach out to her. So let's get into it. Let's welcome Lauren Hansen. Welcome to the What's This About podcast, episode 3, with my special guest, Lauren Hansen.
E-N.
A.K.A. Astrobetch. Why didn't you go with bitch? It sounds nice. What's betch? Does it even mean anything? Or
it was at a
slang?
time where Betches is a website. There's a lot of betching going around, and I just felt like it was a little more playful than bitch.
Yeah, bitch is kind of harsh.
For a while, I wanted it to just be called fucking astrology, but my mother, she was like, that is terrible. You can't market yourself that way.
Yeah, you kind of put yourself in a box.
Yeah, you put yourself in a box, but I'm like, the more successful I get, the more I'm going to go into my own box. So I don't really care. But it was just kind of fun, and it made sense. Yeah. I feel like this is the first version of me as an astrologer. Like, it's definitely going to... I don't think I'm going to be like Astrobetch my whole life. Yeah. But it's good for now. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I met you through a mutual friend, and then, I started learning how much you were into astrology. Mm-hmm. So basically, that's what this podcast is about you and you being an astrologer. So like, how can, I'll ask again at the end, but like how you're out there, you're on Instagram. Mm-hmm. That's your main platform? That's my only platform. Okay. I don't think I could handle... I don't know how people do more. Yeah. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I think if you do Instagram, it has all those where you can post them at the same time on Twitter and Facebook. Right. I think that's the best way to do it, where you use Instagram as your first module. Right. And then it goes from there. But... it's a lot of work, yeah.
I feel like I'll end up just trying to check the Facebook page, and I don't want to change this on there. It's also, when I'm doing something that's so spirituality based, I'm just like, how am I going to be on my phone and my computer all the time? Yeah. It's kind of weird, because I'm telling everybody, hey, be really present, meditate, spend time with the people who matter. It's like the opposite when they're on their phone reading what I'm saying.
Totally, yeah.
So it feels really weird, which is why I definitely this year want to get more involved in going to conferences and going to spiritual ceremonies and stuff like that, and really, maybe take a quick picture, like, hey, here, cool, I'm at this.
You promote yourself, but you're doing the real life stuff.
Yeah, I want to do more real life stuff, and... Instagram's been really cool because there are people I talk to from all over the world. I don't even have 1,000 followers, and I started it as my own little writing project. So I minored in writing in college, and I've always written, poetry and music here and there, whatever. I love to write. But I started it because I was starting to get so obsessed with astrology, and I was so curious about what was going on in the sky every day. I was like, oh my God, the moon shifts every 2.5 days. Venus changes signs every 3-ish weeks. Oh, it retrogrades 2 times a year. And I was starting to get so into it. And I was like, I really want to keep up on... I want to teach myself astrology by just starting to study the patterns of what's going on in the sky. Right. I was like, how do I hold myself accountable? I was like, well, I'll start an Instagram page and I'll just write about it. Yeah. Because it's one thing to be putting it out there, and it's another... I could just open a Word document and just write about it every day. Totally. But you're more accountable. And then, I have some friends who are interested in it. They're like, oh, I'll learn along with you. I'm like, okay, follow me on this. And man, I looked at my posts from now. I started it maybe 1.5 years ago. And I look and I'm like, wow, I'm really happy I kept up with this, because I'm so much better at... Obviously, I've learned a lot. Yeah, but also so much better at summarizing what I'm learning and keeping it... Because, like I was telling you before, I really am interested in teaching this eventually. Mm-hmm. I really love teaching and simplifying things. There's a magic to being able to take a complicated subject and simplify it and put it in understandable terms. So this has really helped, because if you can simplify it writing, you can certainly simplify it with your voice. I mean, it takes 2 seconds to say a sentence. You could look like a whole paragraph, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Well, I think one of the things that you said in there, what I caught, was the accountability factor, like you're using the Instagram platform as kind of like your blog to write about all this stuff and you know, be able to do your writing and stuff like that. But the other thing I think that's cool about that is that that's actually like, you know, your friends supporting you and wanting to hear this stuff from you.
Right.
That's actually a healthy way of looking at it, because it's encouragement, where it's not like, how many likes did I get on this post and stuff?
I wasn't trying to get the account out there. I was just like, exactly, and genuinely not giving a fuck about that part.
Right. Totally.
That's where it all is like, and it's just pure encouragement.
Totally. That's and I think about that because now, like when I post like my art on my Instagram, there's always strangers that like it, but you know, and random ones. But then there's the majority is a group of people that I know, and they'll comment saying like, "Hey, I love this," or "This is great. I see your work evolving," or whatever. And that is the good encouragement, you know. And it's not just, you know, I mean, it's not just people like, you know, just saying stuff to say stuff, you know, like people do on Instagram because they'll comment on your page so that people will be like, who's this person? Yeah,
right.
You know,
so it almost is more meaningful when it's someone you know, because you know that they mean it. Right.
They're supporting you as a person, which is cool, and that's healthy, you know. But back to the like technology thing too, it's crazy because they have that thing on your phone now where it says your screen time is down 14% from last week, and I'm like, oh my god, thank God.
Yeah.
But when I look at, and I'm not going to say how many hours I'm on my phone a day because it's embarrassing, but when you look at that, you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I was on my phone that much today? Like, that's insane. Like, it's literally insane. And it's just, but that's society. And the funny thing is, there's people way worse than me. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, way worse.
Sure. And I'm just like, wow, that's scary, you know?
Yeah.
But, I mean, if your job, because there are people like, maybe let's just say an influencer, if your job is social media, like that's then I could see like, okay, well, that's, you know, that's your computer at work or whatever. Yeah. You know, that justifies that. But for a normal person, then you're on like, texting this much and social media this much. And like, oh my god, what am I doing? You know,
it's crazy to me because there's so much other stuff to do still to this day. Yeah. I was sitting next to a family today in the cafe, and all of them were on their phones, and I was just like, this is creepy. Yeah. Like, this is creeping me out. Yeah. Like, this is getting really fucking weird.
It's getting bad.
It's getting really bad. And then people are like, I don't know why, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, because you're fucking on your phone all day long. Yeah. You're not... Yeah. The thing that's insane is how people aren't bored anymore because there's always some dumb shit to do on your phone. Like, yeah, you could be bored technically and playing Candy Crush or whatever. Yeah. But it's like when you don't allow this magic... And this will come into spirituality. Yeah. When you don't allow yourself to have a moment of boredom, might not be the right word, but like space where your mind is just like, you're not doing anything. Yeah. I mean, read up on any amazing inventor. Like Einstein talked about all the time. When you just let yourself just be quiet, that's when some of the best ideas come in and the most inspirational moments and all this stuff. And I think about kids like growing up today, and I'm like, you don't know what it's like to have any quiet. Yeah. Like, you don't have a minute where you're not like, why aren't I on my phone, or why aren't I on my computer, or why aren't I doing this, or why aren't I like, I have FOMO because I know my friend is at this party and now I'm not at this party. Yeah. It's just like, oh my God, be okay with being quiet for a minute.
Well, they talk about that where anxiety has gone up.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, that's because of, you know, phones and social media and all that stuff. And it's like, it creates anxiety. It creates all that. And it's pretty bad because it's like, we know the answer to the equations.
But we're already so far in.
Yeah, we're so far in. Doing the same one. Still answering it wrong, you know? But so I had a question going back to your interest in astrology. Like, you know, you're saying all that. So did you also have an interest in like space, like NASA type stuff too, in terms of science?
I definitely did. I tried to take astronomy in high school, and I was like, oh my God, this is so much math. I'm so bad at math. And I was just like, I left the class after taking it too. Like, I was like, this is so cool. Like the first day I walked in, I was like, we're going to be learning about the stars and all this cool stuff. And then it was like all math. Like, never mind.
See, I always wanted to be an architect growing up, and then I realized how much math went into it. And I was like, yeah, peace, I'm out. You know, like, gotta go.
The cool, beautiful parts of it is really cool and beautiful, but when you realize it's all math. Yeah. But astrology is a lot of math too. But it's all patterns. And when you understand that it's part of patterns, which is astronomy, but I was too young to really realize that, I think. And when you can start understanding the patterns, that they're all linked to a certain type of feeling, you know, Neptune represents one thing, Jupiter represents another. It's so much more interesting, and the pattern makes so much more sense. It becomes so much easier to figure out and memorize. Yeah. Because it's like a language almost. Yeah. So it all kind of goes hand in hand. It's really cool.
And that's what my next question was. Like, and I don't know, like numerology. And I don't know a lot about numerology, but I
don't know a lot about numerology, but I do know some.
But it seems like there is some parts of numerology in the astrology as well. Like, you're born at a certain time, you're born on this certain date, the numbers of the date, the numbers of the day, the numbers of the time. Like, so there is some sort of numerology mixed in there too, huh?
There is, in a way. It's almost like you can mix them or you can choose to not mix them. You know, and when I started getting into astrology, and then I was like, oh, what about numerology? And then I started thinking of all the subjects. What about, like, Reiki? What about, you know, it just is endless. All the different ways and how they can all connect. It's like, yes, of course, they are all about spirit. They're all about connecting with your soul and doing what, quote unquote, is your path. You know what I mean? Right. Which is something that I think is like what knocks a lot of people off of things like astrology and numerology. They think that means, you're putting me into a box, you know, my life path number is 7, you know, my birth force is this, and you're trying to say I'm like this. It's like, hold on. Yeah. And the same with astrology. I don't want to say I'm a Leo. Like, I'm not a Leo. I'm not like that at all. You know, whatever. But the reality is there's still free will in all of these things. And I think people assume that astrology and numerology aren't taking that into consideration, when in fact totally are. Right. It's not about where you're definitely going to go in this lifetime, what you're definitely going to do, what you're definitely going to be good at or bad at. You know what I mean? Right. It's more like, hey, this is related to like the workings of your soul, and there's a higher path and there's a lower path. And so it's when you're learning about like your astrology chart, you're learning about basically how to use your natural strengths and your natural weaknesses to your advantage. That's what got me into it, because I was like a class away from being like a psych minor. And my mom was like, you cannot be a psychology major, because what the fuck are you going to do with that unless you're going to be a therapist? I was like, well, I can't, because I'm too emotional. I don't want to take on everybody's shit. Now I'm like, oh, maybe. But what's interesting, what I love about it so much is it explains kind of why you are the way you are, in a sense. And then helps you accept that instead of questioning, because people can go their whole life being like, I don't get why I'm like this, and like the love aspect of my life, but I'm all over the place, but I'm so dependable with my friends or with my family. And it kind of, it's like this web that creates you, and it kind of untangles some of it, I feel like. And it answers your why question. So you accept yourself more. And then on top of it, when you accept it, then there are, astrology can teach you certain outlets that you really need, and you realize, these weaknesses, I can combat them or work with them a lot more effectively. I just need to make sure this other stuff in my life is more balanced. It's weird. It's like untangling and then giving you some keys and some tools. And then the whole point also is it helps you realize like who you really are, like emotionally, and what you really need out of life. And then you can start working towards those goals. People run around not knowing what the fuck they're doing all the time. So I'm like, take astrology as a tool. Just try it. If you don't like it, if you disagree, if you feel like you're being put in a box, fine. Then move on.
Of course, it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
The thing, and you could probably, well, I want you to speak on this, but like, I've seen certain patterns in terms of dating, even. Like, if you date another sign, like in my life, I've dated this one particular sign, and 3 times.
3 times.
I got my heart broken.
Oh, no.
And it's just, as friends, that sign is great. And I have some friends that are, and amazing relationships, great friends. But dating-wise, it sucks, and it's not a match, obviously.
You're Aries, right?
Yeah, I'm an Aries.
Yeah.
What are you?
Is it Sag moon or Leo moon that you have?
I don't know.
It's okay. I have your chart on my phone. I'll look it up in a minute. I have it. I have it somewhere.
What sign are you?
I'm a Leo.
Leo. Okay. Yeah.
I just remember you're all fire.
Our friend talks about that all the time.
Yeah, you're just all fire.
Like, you are all fire. And I'm just like, and it's funny because, so having gone down that path, it was like sucker bait, because it's so great in the terms of like how you first connect, because it's kind of like you're forming a friendship, but then it gets romantic, obviously, too.
Right.
And the romantic side is just like, oh my God, this person drives me nuts. And so,
I'm so curious. Can I grab my phone real quick?
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting because you see those patterns. You're like, okay, well, because I've read that astrology, like science, doesn't acknowledge astrology as being a true science. They call it a pseudoscience
or whatever.
And I'm like, okay, but here's the thing: we live in a world where you can't explain a lot of things about life, about the universe, about life in general, and all this stuff. So I do believe there's a side, like if I ask somebody, like, do you believe in aliens? And they're like, no, that's, hokey stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's insane to me, to hear that, because I'm like, you can't even explain the galaxy,
you're sure no one else is out there.
Yeah. I'm like, 100%. Like, we don't know what happens when we die.
Yeah.
People have beliefs.
We don't even know what happens when we dream.
Yeah.
Like, we can watch patterns, but we have no idea why the fuck we dream. Why?
Yeah.
Why do we dream? No one can answer this question.
I had a dream, not this morning, but yesterday morning.
Yeah.
And I was in an open field area or something, but there was buildings around. But there was people there, and I think I knew them. Everything's kind of hazy.
Yeah.
There was this little owl, like maybe this, the size of your hand or so.
Yeah.
And I think it was like half mechanical or something, and it flew around, and at first it seemed like it was bad. Yeah. And it landed on my wrist and had these bigger, like, claws that wrapped around and locked onto my wrist. And then it turned out it was like a good, it was a good thing. It was positive. But it would, like, attack a little bit or something like that. And I was like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, like, what the hell
was that? I have the craziest dreams all the time. So, like, dreams, that could be, like, a whole huge podcast.
Yeah, that could be its own thing. Yeah.
But they I remember somebody gave me a dream book once, a girlfriend I had at the time. Yeah. Does that stuff really mean this? Does it really mean? Who knows? I don't know.
Who knows? Nobody knows. There have been so many.
Fascinating.
There's so many different theories about it, and there are old understandings of it that people all agreed. Yes, this is correct. If you see a rubber band in your dream, it means, I don't know, you're trying to be flexible. Whatever.
Yeah. Totally.
But then those things have changed. The thing is that nobody has all the answers. Mm-hmm. So when someone's like, astrology makes no sense, blah, 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 I'm like, but why are you so resistant? Because it's not like you know. Yeah. You do not know. Yeah. And I'm not claiming that I know either.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I think astrology is so cool, and it makes sense to me, is because it has helped every single person I've ever talked to about their chart. They feel much clearer. And it's not like I'm claiming to be a psychic and I'm telling them, yes, you're going to get married in 6 months. So then they're really happy and they leave and be like, see, I helped somebody. It's like, no. But I mean, most people whose charts I do, they end up being like, I cried, I did this, because it really resonates with them a lot. And I don't think and some people will argue, well, you could just say those facts about anybody and they'll all cry, and like, because it's all those things are kind of true for everybody. And it's like, to an extent, but you clearly haven't had your chart done, because it is insanely detailed. You cannot, just your zodiac sign, which is your sun sign. That's the sign the sun was in when you were born. Mm-hmm. I understand if you don't identify with that, because that is one piece of the entire puzzle that has so many other pieces. I mean, you have your sun, your moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, the sign they're in. You have the houses they're in. Mm-hmm. Then you have these outer planets like Venus and Neptune and Uranus and Pluto. And it's like, then they're in certain houses. And then there's the aspects that they all make to each other.
Right.
And then throw in, okay, let's compare my birth chart to what's going on in the sky right now. And then that's when you come into like predicting and it's more about opportunities. It's like, ooh, this kind of opportunity can flow to you.
Right.
That's kind of what the idea is, which is why people can also cast it off and be like, oh, well, this year it looks like I was supposed to be getting married, but I didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, well, it also is about saying your higher path would allow that. You might not be on your higher path.
Right.
You're not giving out the right energy. You haven't put in the work.
Totally.
You don't love yourself. You know what I mean? It's
there's
like
free will.
There's free will. It doesn't cast.
Yeah.
One thing I want to get clear is that there's still 100% free will, and astrology is not claiming that certain things are definitely going to happen to you. Right. Not at all.
Well, and I think there's, like when you look at certain signs, I think there's too many comparisons or similarities within the signs that say like, well, yeah, if you're this sign, you're generally like this. And then when you get to know people and you're like, oh my God, that person's totally like this.
Yeah.
There's so much of that I've seen in my life.
Yeah.
Where it's like my old band, the singer, he was a Leo. And he fit the Leo persona to a T. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, that's so crazy, and he's a Leo, But so I think there's, like you're saying, let's say there's like 5 descriptions of like what a Leo is like. You might not be all 5, but
there'll probably be 4 out of 5.
Yeah, there's a good chance you're going to be a bunch of those, and that's so common to me that I've seen that when someone is a certain sign, there are usually a bunch of those things that they describe in that sign.
Exactly.
So I don't know. It's kind of crazy, and it's interesting when you start really looking into that too.
Yeah, and to like better understand, it's like, so you're saying you knew a Leo who very much fulfilled the classic Leo stuff, right?
Yeah.
I had a friend who was a Leo just like me, but did not seem like it at all. I mean, she was quiet. She wasn't, loud, and she was quiet. She wasn't loud with her outfits. She didn't need to be the center of attention. Yeah. She wasn't very comfortable on a stage or entertaining people. Yeah. She was very different. And this was the beginning of me really studying astrology, and I found it so fascinating because I'm like, I'm such a Leo, so it makes total sense to me. So I looked, it's like, this is when I started learning about aspects. So she had Saturn conjunct, meaning basically aligned, like within 10 degrees of her sun in Leo. So Saturn and Leo were like right next to each other. Well, when Saturn touches another planet, Saturn is the planet of restriction and limits. Yeah. And it's like the old man, that's like follow the rules and you have to work hard, and it's a restrictive cold planet. And so when it touches somebody's sun, which represents how they shine best, that's easy to memorize as the sun. It's literally restricting, it's dimming them.
Cooling it off.
It's cooling it off. Okay. So you'll notice, like, that's something I picked up on whenever I do people's charts. Very often when they're like, I don't resonate with my sun sign. I would love you to tell me about Mercury or Mars or whatever. Maybe that explains. It's like, usually Saturn is in the mix, either opposing or conjunct, which totally dims their ability to shine. Right. And, like, they don't know how to express themselves like their sun sign. Yeah. Or they have other planets like Mercury and their moon and Mars that are just, none of them are in that same sun sign. Right. So they resonate with these other signs more. Interesting. That don't have these other limiting aspects. You get what I mean? Yeah. So that's why when people cast it off because they're not in a box, I'm like, I always go, give me your fucking birthday and give me all your stuff because I'm going to make some calls right now. I'll be I guarantee you Saturn is involved. I guarantee you if that's not true, then you have your sun in your 12th house. Like there's certain houses that like dull your shine. There are different things that can happen. And so that's why the more I looked into it, the more I did people's charts. This is just fascinating.
So that's like where there's outside factors affecting how they are related to their sign. That's where I think like, okay, if someone's a certain sign, and there's these like 4 or 5 things that usually are the things that are connected with that sign, but then growing up, things happen to them in their life. I think that can alter it.
Totally.
100%. Like where I'm an Aries, so Aries are usually natural born leaders. I 100% have that arsenal in me. Yeah. And I don't always use it all the time. Right. And sometimes I'm more reserved and I just sit back and I like to like relax and watch people do it. But then I can remember specific, like there's been times in my life where I've 100% been that leader and just been like, all right, I got to take the reins here. Because I feel it in me like burning, like driving me nuts. Like, okay, this is chaos. And I know how to lead this situation, so I'm going to take over. And like when I used to play soccer pickup games sometimes, I would see myself, like I definitely wasn't the best guy on the field, but I would see myself starting to really like kind of like delegate and control the game a little bit in some ways because I could just see how it was working and operating.
Yeah.
You know, and it became helpful. But there was another time in a work event where there was we had to like fill these sample bags to give away. Yeah. And everybody's kind of standing around like, well, we should put this with this. And I go, all right. And I just stopped everybody. I lined up a whole like assembly line. I was like, all right, you go here, you go. And I just started putting everybody in place. Right. And my boss came over like 10 minutes later and she goes, hey, I hear you're like running the show over here. And I was like, damn straight, grab a bag, lady. Because it's just, I have that. And the funny thing is like the hardest way to lead is myself, you know? Like that's like I could sit there and tell other people what to do and like fix a situation like that. But it's weird in my own life. It's hard to lead myself to where I want to go sometimes or something.
It's interesting because astrology talks a lot about masculine energy versus female energy.
Okay.
And so the water signs and earth signs are technically more like feminine energy.
Interesting.
And if you think about it, water makes sense because that's all about being emotional. But earth, that's all about stability.
Grounding.
And it's very grounding. Yeah. It's about structure, routine,
Mothers
money.
Are very grounding.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So, but it's weird because when you're first studying the elements, it's like, I would feel like earth is kind of like the more dude-like because it's just so it's dirty. That's funny. Yeah. No, but just because it's usually people who are like working very hard and they're building. It's all about building structures. I mean, that sounds pretty.
Well, a father can be very grounding too, because like traditionally, you know, years ago, the father was the household, the hunter-gatherer. Right. He supported the family and stuff like that. But then the mom was like grounding too. I mean, they both can be grounding.
So Cancer is the mother of the zodiac. Okay, and that's a water sign, feminine, right? Yeah. Opposite it is Capricorn, the father of the zodiac.
Interesting.
And that's grounding, stable. It's all about building. This is business. Capricorn's all about career, status, building, and like monetary security. Right. Cancer's all about emotional security, nurturing, the home. It's kind of that very obvious, like, balancing that you would need. You know what I mean?
What times of the years are those? Like, what's the date?
Oh, like Capricorn? Yeah. Like, Capricorn is early, like, late December, early January. Okay. You know, early mid until you get to, like, January 20th. Yeah.
And then what's the...
Cancer is end of June to, like, end of July. You know,
so
like
it's after Gemini?
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it is interesting, but
what's Aries considered in this?
So Aries is a fire sign. Yeah. Like Leo and Sagittarius. It's masculine. Okay. And then the air sign. So it's 2 and 2. You got earth and water is feminine and air and fire is masculine.
Right.
But it's weird because, for example, Libra is an air sign. It's considered masculine. Yet it's the sign of beauty and compromise and harmony and peace, but also it's about justice and keeping things fair. And people don't think of Libra necessarily as a leader, but they are one of the leaders of the zodiac. There's Capricorn's a leader in their own way. Leo is in their own way. Aries is all the cardinal signs like Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer is a leader. It's the mother of the zodiac. It might not be leading in this, you know, right. But everybody knows mom's in charge. Yeah. She's not literally being like, "This is what we're gonna do." Sometimes, but you do what you know she wants you to do. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So, but it's funny because it's the feminine and masculine. It makes more sense the more you study it. But it's true. Like I've seen in certain charts, you know, I have a bunch of different friends who are very restless or like literally have ADD or ADHD. Yeah, and always they're made up of restless signs. That's what's so interesting to me because there are certain signs like Gemini is very restless. Virgo is very restless. Like those are the most restless signs. But then you also, you know, let's say you're made up of some Virgo, but you're also made up of some Gemini. It's like, oh shit, you are like gonna be the most restless person ever. And this is why I find it's crazy because it is science-like because you will always see in a chart these like mental problems that people have. You can call them mental problems. I don't think they're problems. I think that they're
mental like,
uniqueness that you can work with. Totally.
Well, okay, so to your point. Like, so I grew up in a family with an alcoholic father. So my upbringing was really chaotic. You know, my dad was very verbally abusive, and he didn't hit anyone necessarily, but he
might as well have.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just as traumatizing.
Yeah.
So, me in my dating life, like I realized as I was growing up, like I had issues like fear of intimacy, which I went to therapy for. You know, I worked through these things, and as you're consciously working on a lot of this stuff, then you see different patterns or habits that you have in terms of dating, where I would date women or be attracted to women that were chaotic. So because that's what I grew up with, that's what I saw. So that's what looked normal to me, or was what was supposed to be. And it also was safe because it was familiar. Terrible choice.
Right.
But now that you say it, so like Gemini, Virgo, I've dated both of those signs. And 100%, like, just, you know.
Most restless people.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, you know. And not saying they're bad people.
No.
But
you know, restless. I mean, being around restless energy is very difficult. Having restless energy is very difficult. And being around it is very difficult. I mean, it's a lot. Yeah. But it can be used in the most beautiful of ways. Like, the most restless people sometimes are the biggest inventors because their mind is just go going. And if they learn how to work with it, it's great. But then there's some people who are extremely restless, and they are so restless that they try to numb themselves.
Eddie Van Halen's a perfect example of that. Like, I grew up a Van Halen fan, so I loved Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing. I'm a guitar player. And so when they reunited, like, so David Lee Roth is like super showman, like blah, you know, like, and everybody's like, oh my god, that guy's like nuts, you know, but he's super entertaining, amazing, and he's when you really learn about him, there's this deep side of him. Eddie Van Halen always seemed like, you know, just chill, like, but super amazing, like, you know,
so much energy when he's playing his stuff, and so chill,
and he like, you know, he did something on guitar that nobody ever did, and he like did all this stuff. He created this thing called the Brown sound with his amplifier, where he went into the Marshall half stack and like changed, you know, the frequency and the electricity, the power volts going in there, which created a sound that no one else had. And so they called it the Brown sound. So now, fast forward years later, when they reunited, I don't know, like, within the last 10 years, my friend worked on a sound stage, and he was like, oh, they're rehearsing here for the tour, you know? And I was like, oh my God, how is that? I was like, what are they, you know, like, what are they like? Is like David Lee Roth driving everybody crazy? And he goes, well, actually, no. He goes, it's actually Eddie, the one that's driving everybody crazy, because to your point, his mind just does not stop going. And that's how he's a guitar genius and a genius at all these things. But at the same time, then that's why he had the drug problem, where he was numbing himself, because it slows his mind down. And, you know, and he was like, no, he's like, actually, David Lee Roth is the one that you invite to the party to pick it up. He's like, Eddie's the one that will bring it down, because he's just so inside his own head and stuff like that.
That's so funny.
And it's like, wow, that's crazy, you know? But I think, to your point, and I've learned this through working with my guru with emotions and stuff like that, like fear is the one I always use as the first example. Fear, like, people think like, oh, fear, anxiety, like, it's terrible, I hate it, and blah, blah, blah. But think about it. You can't look at these as negative things, to your point, where these people have, like, that are ADHD, you know, like someone like an Eddie Van Halen, he was able to use it to revolutionize guitar playing, and he influenced a whole generation of guitar players, and, you know, he did all this stuff. So I think, to your point, where, if you learn to use your strengths and weaknesses, you know, to your advantage, then you're going to flourish. Totally. You know, but if you just sit there in your weaknesses and think like, oh, this is terrible. So going back to the fear analogy, it's like, if you're in the woods and a bear comes at you, fear is your friend, because it's telling you,
it's going to get your ass.
Dude.
It's going to get your ass out of here.
Yeah, get in your car and drive away. So it's not your enemy. Like, your emotions are not you got to look at them as like they're working towards. So what we were talking about earlier about anxiety, where it's like going, hello, and it's going to keep knocking on your door until you answer it and listen to it. Right. And that's your emotions and your feelings. And so I think there's a lot to that tied into what you're saying, where if you can learn about your chart and learn about all these different branches and pathways, and you're on that higher vibration of it, then that could come true. Your destiny could be in the charts. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So
well said.
Yeah, thank you.
I totally.
I was getting there, but
you were getting there. No, I've followed along every step.
I was letting out a lot of it.
No, I like it. No, it's good. It's true, and certain charts pull you to you most likely, and it's one of those things too where you look at people of different ages and like I'll do somebody's chart who's on the older end or on the younger end. I mean, I just did the chart for my nephew who just turned 1, and I'm trying to like tell my brother like, hey, okay, he's gonna have these strengths and these weaknesses most likely. Yeah. Like, so, my nephew is a Gemini, or no, he's a Virgo with a Gemini moon. And I was just saying those are the 2 most restless signs. So I'm like, you need to get him books. You need to make sure get him to play some kind of instrument, anything that gets his mind somewhere creative, or even if it's just learning and reading or whatever. But he's going to need so many outlets. I don't want you to be surprised if he starts acting out or getting bored and like breaking shit. It's like, it's because he's got so much going on. It's so much mental energy. Yeah. Help him use that to his advantage. He'll figure out what like he really loves, and he'll have more energy than most people have. Yeah. If he can put it in there.
So here, getting personal. Yeah. 2 things. One, what have you learned and you've seen in your own life that have been your strengths and your weaknesses that were in your chart? But the biggest thing is, what did you see in your chart that impacted you the most as a person?
Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you my strengths and weaknesses, and I'll be able to touch in on which piece that was, or that is. Yeah. So I was saying that there's the 5 main parts of a chart. It's your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign. I guess we should say 6. Your Mercury, Mars, and Venus. These are all different pieces of you. Yeah. These are all different pieces, right? So your sun is how you shine the best. It's your general personality, as long as there aren't other aspects messing it up. Right. And it's kind of their characteristics you're conscious of. That's the best way. Like your sun is your consciousness and your moon is your subconscious. Your sun is your conscious wants. Your moon represents your subconscious emotional needs. So when I first look at someone's chart, I'm like, all right, I want to see, does the sun and the moon, are they compatible? Are they made of similar element, like compatible elements? Right. Are they the same element? Are they completely opposing? Because that'll create internal conflict, because you're consciously wanting certain things. Like I'm a Leo, right? So I consciously want Leo stuff. I'm not consciously like have Leo characteristics, and I should live my whole life trying to strengthen them. They are my strengths. I shine the best when I'm the best Leo I can be. Right. And everybody who's a Leo, same thing. We all, whatever your sun sign is, you should be striving always to embody that, in addition to some other stuff. But that is how you will shine the best in this life, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so I'm a Leo. Okay, so that's all about, it's the entertainer of the zodiac. It's the sign of fun, creativity, childlike sense of wonderment, or just children. Like a lot of people who are Leos work really well with children, or have jobs where they get to be silly all the time. Like Leo is very fun. It's very fun, but it's also a leader, because it's like one of the warmest signs, one of the most loyal signs. It's a lover. It's a sign of romance. Yeah. It's the fun part of everything, and so they're leaders because they naturally draw everybody in. Because who doesn't want to be around the most fun, welcoming, warm person in the room? You know what I mean? Yeah, that's how they're leaders, right? Aries, like in your example, they're a leader because they're like, I don't give a fuck about what anybody else's opinion is. I know what to do. Everybody, let's go. It's the sign of war. Like it's the sign of like, this is my determination. Right. Leo just wants to like take a nap, chill, dance around, create some shit, and everyone just follows them because they're just like, this is a nice chill zone to be in here. Yeah. So Leo. Now, my moon is in Scorpio, and this is where I did learn the most about myself, and I would say changed me a lot when I was learning, resonated with me a lot when I was first learning about it, and has made me realize that weakness is actually a strength. So I can make it a strength, I should say. So my moon is in Scorpio. Right. Very different from Leo. So now my conscious wants are totally different from my emotional needs. This creates an internal conflict, because I might do one thing that's very Leo-like, and then my emotions come in and they're like, Scorpio is a sign of, it's the most complicated sign of the zodiac, first of all.
Yeah.
It's all about investigation, and it's all about like dark, hidden stuff, the unknown. It's the truth seeking. It's the psychologist, investigator, analytic, detective, like think all that stuff. Like the people who are willing to get down into the nitty gritty, into the dark shit where things don't really shock them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I watched Law and Order SVU since I was like 5 years old and I loved it. Why? I have no idea. Why would I want to learn about that?
Yeah.
Because it was dark and creepy and all about psychology. It was so interesting to me, you know? But it's a very secretive sign. And on a bad day, Scorpios can be very manipulative because they understand people so well. They know how to fuck with them. They're very intuitive. They can pick up on other people's energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it can get really weird. I mean, there's a dark and a light side to every sign.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but Scorpio's dark side is one of the darkest of all. You know what I mean? They can really do some fucked up shit to people. So anyway, my point is Leo is so different from Scorpio, right? Mm-hmm. So I always wondered, I'm like, I'm so comfortable on a stage. I have so much fun. I like perform my whole life, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, I was very like, there's no truth to this though. Like I'm an actor on a stage, but where's the like realness? Where's the truth? I started feeling like it was very superficial. Like Scorpios are so anti-superficial. So I have this constant like combative thing, and it works out in my life where I'm either out having a ton of fun with my friends and like I'll walk in a room and be the loudest person. But then if I'm not doing that, I'm in my cave, like in the apartment alone for many days in a row. I don't really have an in-between. And it's almost like I make a conscious choice. Do I want to, am I feeling more like being my Leo self? And if that feels good, then I'll go out and I'll go do it. And I'll know I can really embody it and shine and have fun. And if I'm feeling reclusive, I'm like, it's cool. That means emotionally, I really need to tap into that part of me right now. And I need to like recharge, have my time, study some shit that I think is really interesting, get into the dark. But those are two signs that don't go together. And now the fact that I'm aware of that means I know I can tap into one or the other instead of trying to make them work all the time. Right. Like combine.
Well, it's consciousness, you know, and you posted something the other day and I remember the words tune in, you know, like I forget what the post was about, but basically like, you know, as we were talking before, if you're in your higher vibration, you know, it's kind of like if you get up every day and you manifest or you think in a positive way all day long, then I definitely believe that good stuff is going to come to you. Positive stuff is, you know, somebody's upset, but you're positive. You're like, you're not going to absorb that. You're not going to take that on. You know, you're going to keep being positive. If you wake up every day with this like Debbie Downer type attitude, then all you're going to see is negativity. That's what you're going to attract because that's what you're looking for. The energy.
It's like two things. It's like your perception is negative, so everything's going to suck no matter how good it is. Yeah. But then at the same time, you're also inviting more genuinely negative shit to come at you. So it's kind of like, the law of attraction has fascinated me so much over this last year. I'm just like, wow, that shit is real.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, it's creepy how well it works. Like you just believe something, believe you deserve it, think about it, focus on it. Well, so the other day when I was saying tap in, tapping in means trying to be conscious of yourself. And there's so many people who, you know, you're working a 9 to 5, you get up in the morning and you just get up. You're fucking tired and you have like X amount of time, 30 minutes, get ready, go shower, go do this. You're playing like a podcast or maybe you're not even playing anything because you're just thinking about like the day at work. And then you get to work and then you immediately need to start working and then you have 2 seconds to eat lunch and then you go back to work and then your day's over and you're fucking tired. And then you go out and you numb yourself with drinking or like seeing friends or like whatever. Or you just go home and you're so tired and you stress out about the day you just had and then you go to sleep and then you live it on over and over and over again. Yeah. I do really believe like making the time to sit with yourself is so important. And that's what's cool about astrology charts too, is because it kind of forces people to because if you're like, oh, I'm just going to have this girl do my astrology chart with me, you'll read it and you'll be like, oh my God, like I got to tap into myself. I don't know who I am. Like it's really interesting. It's like we live in a very specific time where things are moving so rapidly. Yeah. There's been no other time that there's been technology to this level on Earth ever. And we have been set up with so many distractions. We are now like born into a society where it's like, well, if you don't work this much and you don't make this much, you're gonna just be on the street. So like we have to.
Yeah.
So the challenge right now is like bigger than ever. Like this stuff is ancient. Astrology is ancient. It's like you could work with it. You had more time on your hands in the past.
Yeah.
Now it's like really a challenge to tap into yourself. It's like, oh yeah, let me just tap into myself. I have to get to fucking work.
Well, I've learned.
So people are scared.
Yeah.
Because it's going to tell them, hey, what you're doing is really sad and you're really unhappy and like you should be doing something else. And they don't want to hear it.
Oh, no, of course not.
Because they need to make money and they need to do this.
No, and everybody thinks that money is the answer.
And there we go.
Yeah,
and then that's where you go. And that's the big fucking problem. It's like, you really?
Well,
because how many people have to die and be on their deathbed like Steve Jobs, like you were saying earlier today? They have to be like, hey, guys, money's not the answer. We know this.
Steve Jobs, one of the most successful people ever, and he's telling people from his deathbed, like, I did it wrong. Mm-hmm. Like...
Because he's quote-unquote successful.
Yeah.
We all want to be like that.
But that's all he had.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I mean, there could be the thing that, like, well, certain people are put here for a purpose and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And, but... I mean, that's a guy he created the iPhone, like he helped create all this technology that's amazing.
Yeah.
But technology, like I have a love-hate relationship with it. I love it. I love technology. I love all like I was in the airport the other day and I was frustrated because I was walking through the terminal. I was like, what pisses me off? The fact that there will come, because we've seen the fast development of technology in our lifetime so far, right? Mm-hmm. Like this crazy, like you have a whole computer, you have your whole life in a phone, you know? So I was walking through the airport and I'm going, what pisses me off? I know that in the future, and it could be in the near future, whatever, a flight to the East Coast from LA to New York will probably take like an hour or 2 hours. At some point, they'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out,
and then air travel will be like quicker and faster and then, so much more efficient. And I'm like, they need to figure that out now. So I don't have to sit on a plane for 5 hours. Like, hurry up, man. Like, if I was president, I would focus on stuff like that. Like,
I really think your birth time is the AM one.
Why do you say
because it would make you a rising Aquarius, and that makes so much more sense to me.
Interesting.
Aquarius is all about innovation, technology, unique, thinking outside the box, being as almost colorful and whimsical and different. Wow. I just feel like that's a lot more you than Leo.
I've always thought outside the box, like especially like creatively with art or music. Mm-hmm. I'll take like my like the thing that I learned like growing up, like writing graffiti, for example. Mm-hmm. Like I looked at all my favorite writers and I was like, okay, how does this guy make an S? Mm-hmm. How does this guy make an R? How does this guy make an A? Or whatever the case.
I'm calling it now.
What?
I think I don't think you're PM. I really don't. And I've gotten so much better at this over time, so I can trust my opinion on this.
But I've always, and then you take that and then I'm like, okay, now how can I make that my own? How can I be different? Like, because the thing is, and I know this from a music standpoint, and I would like to say I know it from an artist, painter standpoint now too, mm-hmm. is that like, it's the harder road. Like in the art world right now, if I see one more painting of like Biggie or Tupac or David Bowie or Elvis or Marilyn, it's just like, dude, it's pop art.
Yeah,
it's
been done.
Yeah, it's just and you're not even like if someone does Mickey Mouse or something, I'm
mm-hmm.
like, you're not even doing your own art. You're copying someone else's art that they created
mm-hmm.
and then just painting it with like fluorescent colors. And
it's weird.
The reason why it's so popular is because people can relate to it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
because they know it's going to sell.
Right. But also my point of that is what you're saying about like the charts, and people don't want to see the reality because then that'll make them upset, or they just don't take the time. Mm-hmm. Time, I think, is how you were saying how society runs in time. That's hugely a massive problem because mm-hmm. if people took the time to stare at like some random person's abstract painting instead of like looking at the Mickey Mouse and going, oh yeah, Mickey Mouse, I know Mickey Mouse, I love Mickey Mouse, it's like, but if they took the time to really look at the abstract painting, and I'm not saying everybody has the mind for this, I'm just using art as an example, they might find a lot more in that abstract painting than they would in the Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
You know, because they're actually having to use their mind and having to think and go into their imagination and
they grow. You grow when you look at something you're not used to.
Yeah.
And what's going on in society is it's like, listen, it's like a fear-based thing. It's like, all right, you got to do this because you have to make money because, gosh forbid, anything happens. Like, you want to be able to afford it, or you just want to be able to pay rent or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. It's very strange. But we have so many people on this planet, I think, that people forget, like, listen, if you just want to quit your whatever the fuck bullshit job you hate, or maybe you're even making the right amount, and you want to do something based off of something you're passionate about, there's enough customers and clients to go around. And that is the beauty, like one of the love things with technology. It's like you can do something you love and someone across the world can buy your art or can buy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything is so accessible now. That's like the beautiful part of it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, there's definitely a lot of great things about it.
Very good things.
It's funny because I get frustrated. Like if something doesn't work the way it should, like on the phone. I'm like, you son of a bitch. Like I get so mad. I'm like, you're not supposed to work like this. You know, you're supposed to work better. You know, or like you have slow internet. You're like, what the hell's this? You know.
Yeah. Louis C.K. is a great stand up about it.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
The other one is there's the great story about John Lennon and when he was in grade school and the teacher had them write down like what do you want to be when you grow up, and he wrote down happy. And she said, your answer's wrong. And he's like, no, it's not.
Oh, I didn't know that.
How do you say that that's wrong to a kid? Like, are you insane? That's the best answer that you can ever
It's the best answer in the world.
And I'm like, that's
what
so John Lennon.
What do you want to be? Happy.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Do you think that really happened?
I mean, I've read the story many times, so I'd like to believe
I like it. I'm keeping it. I'm going to say it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cute. What a John Lennon answer.
Right.
All right, so I love tangents.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say was, for my chart, so I'm a Leo sun, Scorpio moon.
Yeah.
There is also classic older astrology beliefs, and that's what's also interesting about astrology right now is there are a lot of newcomers and people starting to learn it. You realize, you can kind of sway astrology a little one way, a little another way. Like there's really old school astrology where it's very strict and it's like this sign means this and this sign means that. And you could just see even within the last 100 years if they're like Susan Miller is a famous astrologer, Ann Ortley, there's a bunch of them and they've worked with the energies and now they've been working for 20 years doing charts. And they're like, I've, from my studies, from studying this many fucking people, like hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of people, I've learned that, this planet does represent this, like old school, but it kind of goes here too. And that's what's really exciting to me is because it's like I can't wait till I'm at the point where I have my own. I already have some of my own opinions, for sure. Yeah. But like having a moon in Scorpio is it's considered in fall, and they're as in not good.
Right.
It's not good, and the reason why is because Scorpio is the most deeply emotionally complex sign. So when your moon, what drives your emotions, is in the most deep, complex, emotional sign, that's bad. As in, it's bad for you. As in, it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to handle. But in reality, it's not bad. Like, when I looked up the celebrities who have their moon in Scorpio, coolest fucking list of people ever. Like, it's endless. Out of all the moon signs, the people who you respect for creating the best music, I mean, it's like, it's ridiculous. It's like, Katy Perry, whatever, but it's also Beyonce, but it's also, I think it's Bruce Lee. It's also, hold on, let me think here. There's like, it's crazy. One of the Beatles is in it.
Yeah. It's a good group.
It's a good group. I mean, it's funny because I haven't looked at it in so long because I find it's kind of egotistical to get really excited about that. Yeah. But you look it up. I mean, it's just like everybody who's done the coolest shit, and you're just like, so it's bad as in it's hard to handle, but it's not bad because if you're so emotional, you create the coolest shit.
Well, that's something that because I grew up and I was kind of always sensitive. And then what I learned as an adult, like when I was living in a house with my bandmates, we were up like one night and I guess I don't know if we played a show or something, but we were up pretty late and we had people over after or whatever. And one of the conversations we were talking about each of us as individuals, as musicians and stuff. And my bandmates said, they're like, you have a really sensitive, raw personality. But because of that, you're able to tap in to this deep creative area in you, and they're like, that's what makes you be who you are as a musician. And they were complimenting me in a lot of ways, but it's
because you're so sensitive, you need to be lifted up.
But it's weird for me. It's weird for me to sit here and go, well, hey, I was a great guitarist or something. But I get that, because and that comes also to tapping in, tuning in, like that's where meditating every day for me is a big part of my life.
I have to get back on it. I have no excuse. I don't know why I haven't been doing it.
Well, sometimes we need a break, but 100% I can feel the difference when I meditate.
Yeah.
Especially, like, I learned Kundalini meditation. So
oh, cool. I know about Kundalini.
Yeah, they're very specific and, like, different. There's all kinds of stuff, like crazy hand movements and different things like that, or chanting. But I've seen the impact, so it works for me.
Yeah.
And it might not be for everybody, but I've seen it and I've learned it, and it's just like, okay, this works for me. I see the difference when I meditate each day and how it impacts my life. And so yeah, it's interesting. I was going to ask you about the connection to tapping with meditation. Like, where does that connect with astrology? And
it does, in the way, like, for a perfect example is, so there are full moons and there are new moons.
Yeah.
And every time one of those comes around, all the astrologers come out and they're like, manifest, meditate, do all these things, tap in, get with the energy.
Right.
And so it is connected, because I believe, and I'm sure from your experience meditating you believe as well, there's something so magical that happens when you're able to just quiet, and you learn how to kind of quiet, but yet it's also this mix of letting in your thoughts, but then also learning how to push them away. It's very complex. It's really cool. But I'm sure you've meditated and then had an amazing idea right afterwards, or even during meditation, because what you're doing when you're allowing yourself to just be, right?
Yep.
And you're feeling your breath. You're feeling your body. You're quieting. You're just like allowing your body and mind to just fucking sit there for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
In that, you are tapping in, because now you're so quiet, you can pick up on the subtleties that are around, right?
Yeah.
And in astrology, the idea is when there is, let's say, there's a new moon and a full moon, right? So new moons are for manifesting, because they're new. Right. They're about new ideas, new beginnings, thinking about what you want to create. You can manifest on either one, but new moons are new ideas. And the reason is because that's when the moon and the sun are in the same sign. So, like, we just had a new moon in Capricorn. Yeah. It's Capricorn season, meaning the sun is in Capricorn. Right. And then once the moon got into Capricorn, it was a new moon, because that is the definition of what it is. And since the sun and the moon represent consciousness and subconscious, what it does for all of us here on Earth is it's allowing all of us to align consciously and subconsciously. It's a time where when your conscious and your subconscious are on the kind of like on the same page, and in this case on the Capricorn page, as in thinking about career and status and hard work, commitments, boundaries you want to set, right? Like, we're all, that's what's being, in the belief of astrology, is being channeled to you. It's saying, okay, hey, everybody on Earth, consciously and subconsciously, you're on the Capricorn page right now. Yeah. And the reason why we suggest meditating on those days is because when you can quiet, you can listen to the universe, and you can listen to yourself and your own thoughts and everything. It just, things flow to you. And if you're doing it on a day where your conscious and your subconscious are on the same page, you can get those ideas so much more easily. You know what I mean? Yeah. Come to revelations a little more easily. It's things are aligned so that you can make sense of them. Yeah. So that's why I say it is totally connected, because there's certain times where, like, if Neptune is making some crazy aspect in the sky, it rules dreams. So we'll be like, hey, astrology PSA, everybody pay attention to your dreams for the next week or whatever, however long the aspect lasts for. And I wouldn't say I don't think every astrologer out there believes in this, but I would say most for sure. The understanding of astrology is accepting that we're all souls that are, yes, in bodies, but we're a soul. Like, there's a soul in here. Even people who don't believe in astrology at all, think it's ridiculous, usually will admit there's a soul. Yeah. Sometimes they don't. Yeah. But your soul is this, you're not conscious, like, your soul has its own things that it wants to do, and you're this human being, like, consciously, like, and subconsciously making all these decisions all the time. And what, like, new moons and full moons and eclipses and all this stuff can help you do is tap back into your soul. And one of the direct ways you can do that is to practice meditation regularly, to get aligned with what the universe is trying to tell you, and also with yourself, and try to get them to be going in the same direction.
Yeah.
But it takes work.
Well, I definitely have visions and creative thoughts when I meditate that inspire paintings. 100%. Like I'll be meditating, and if I'm in that right place, then the colors I'm going to use, like I just start seeing visions of different things, and like that's how a lot of my paintings have come about, just through meditation.
Cool.
100%. And then what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, so getting into like meditating when there's a new moon and stuff like that. So here's the big question.
Okay, what's the big question?
We have New Year's coming up, a new decade. Not just a new year, but a new decade. Like, so what's all your information,
2020 info?
Advice? Yeah, like what's all to people out there?
We're in a pretty crazy time. Yeah. So there are a couple things that go on astrologically that can, like, they don't ever define a year like 2020 exactly, but you'll get a general idea because it's over such a long span of time. So, and some, like, so for example, Jupiter lasts for about a year in a sign, right? Okay. And within the last 5-10 years, it happens to be switching around. They all have their own orbits. It's crazy. Yeah. But if you look at a big calendar over many years, you'll see Jupiter switch signs like in September. Then as time has gone on, you know, 10 years later, they switches in November. You know what I mean? Yeah. Right now, and for the last few years, Jupiter's always switching signs in December, which works out perfectly because it kind of sets the tone for the next whole year. Okay. So Jupiter just entered Capricorn. And we were talking about Capricorn a minute ago. So Capricorn is all about monetary security, hard work, status, career, government, society, rules, regulations, limits, restrictions, reality, concrete results. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's the hardest working sign of the zodiac. So Jupiter, being in that sign now for the next whole year, is basically asking all of us, like, hey, tap into your most Capricorn self, because what Jupiter is the abundant, positive expander. It wants to give you gifts. Wow. It's all about the goodies. Yeah. In order to get the goodies, you need to really tap into whatever sign that it's in. Right. And then in your birth chart, whatever house that it's in. So telling everybody, like, get to fucking work this year. It's not going to be easy. When Jupiter's in Capricorn, you don't just get gifts like magic. It's asking you to put in the work. Right. Set boundaries. So if you put in realistic, the work, then this stuff can flourish. Because sometimes people put in the work and then they don't get shit for a while. Right. This is one of those years where it's like, listen, if you really sit down and make some long-term goals and figure out the baby steps to get there, you commit yourself, you set boundaries in your personal and your work life, and you really channel this stuff, the gifts will come to you a lot more easily. And so that's part of it. But we have... It's basically the most Capricorn year for a very long time. Because Saturn is in Capricorn, Pluto is in Capricorn, Jupiter's in Capricorn, our eclipses have been in Capricorn. I mean, it's basically telling everybody, get to fucking work. Like, enough. And it's not trying to... I'm making them sound very impatient. Right. But it's basically saying, listen, if you want your life to change, you got to put in the work. This isn't going to be a magical, you know, as hippy-dippy as astrology. The opportunity is right in front of your face, but you can't wake up every day doing the same shit and expect a different result. Exactly. So everybody needs to be putting in the work. And when you're looking at these outer planets, which is like the further away ones, like Jupiter and Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, they affect us on a more global scale. Like, I have this whole book that goes over specific planetary shifts, and you can see, like, what happened on Earth in that time, and you're like, that's exactly, you know what I mean? That's when people are like, oh, it is predicting. It kind of is when it comes to these outer planets. So we're going to have on January 10th, so, like, very soon, Pluto is going to conjunct, as in be aligned with, be very close to Saturn. This only happens like once every 36 years. So this is all about, and Pluto takes 248 years to go through all the whole zodiac. Wow. So they haven't been in this sign together you do the math. I already said I'm bad at math. Yeah. So, but basically them together is the beginning of deconstructing and transforming our government, our society, and how we're all going to have to really like put in the work, and there's going to be a lot of challenging of the authority right now.
Wow.
And I think we've already been experiencing that. There are other planetary things that have gone on. I mean, there's astrologers talk about Trump all the time and how they say he was a catalyst we all needed. We needed, basically, in the astrology community, we understand Trump needed to happen. It's like it's so funny because there are all these articles that were like, oh, astrologers say Hillary's going to win. All these astrologers saying Hillary's going to win. And I was like, what? I'm a novice. And I looked and I was like, she is not going to fucking win. I don't know. I think that was like astrologers who have sold their soul and wanted to put out like happy shit for us hippie dippies, because most hippie dippies would not want Trump to win.
Right.
But I'm like, no. And then I listened to like my astrologers, the ones who I really listen to and look up to. None of them were like, oh, Hillary's definitely winning. But of course, my dad, who thinks this is all hoo-ha, was sending me all these like Hillary articles. Like, see, your shit's wrong. Trump won, ha-ha. I'm like,
that's funny.
Like, no. In the astrology community, we understand. We needed somebody to get us like down here.
Right.
You know, we needed somebody who's taking total advantage of their authority, taking total advantage of their position in life, doing all kinds of shit we all hate so loudly, and somehow growing an even bigger fan base, or a fan base that doesn't mind following with their ears closed. Like, we needed that because it's woken up so many other people.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All of us who thought like shit wasn't so bad, now everything is so apparent. And so now we see this crazy like spiritual uprising. Like, there's a lot of companies that have been looking into even just astrology, because the younger generation, like the kids who are like in their middle school and high school, there was some crazy study that was like, oh yeah, like 60% of them like believe in astrology. Usually it's like 20%, maybe. So it's like, it's waking a lot of people up to wanting to connect a lot more with like the spiritual side of things, and being concerned with the collective and not being so capitalist leadership, follow the order.
Well, one of the candidates for the Democratic Party was Marianne Williamson when it started out. And she, like, the stuff where she comes from.
Oh, she was she was the crazy spiritual lady, right?
Yeah.
Crazy in a great way. I'm a crazy spiritual lady. It's fine.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I saw like on Instagram, like Dave Navarro became a huge supporter of her and stuff like that. And then I started like looking into her books, and I was like, oh my god, I actually have bought one of her books on Kindle that I didn't start to read yet. And I was like, that's so crazy. That's who that is, you know? But that, to your point, is that's a reaction to everything that's going on, that someone like that would actually run for president.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, think about having someone in that mind frame that's done all this good work to help people and stuff like that, actually in office. Like, that's crazy. It's crazy. Think, you know?
I remember when I was first learning astrology, what really tripped me out was when I learned about how back, like, probably 1,000-ish years ago, royalty, they had astrologers, and they were the only people who could afford to have astrologers, and they used them to determine when they were going to go to war and when they were going to plant crop, when they were going to do all this shit. And it's like, it worked out well for a lot of them. So it's that's what makes me laugh when people are like, oh, this is some crazy prediction shit. I'm like, okay, well, the richest people in the past used it. And people will go, well, yeah, but we're so much more advanced now. And like, we actually depend on real, like, logic and blah, blah. I'm like, really? Because were people happier back in the day, or are they happier now? Because everybody has money and is very sad.
Right.
So I don't understand. But yeah, you look around, okay, yeah, we have, insulation and whatever. But I guarantee you take some lady who was in a village who probably all day just like chopped meat, made jewelry, whatever. She probably had a lot less anxiety, a lot less fear, a lot, loved going outside, seeing the sun, was connected with the earth, was connected with herself. It wasn't so complicated, and she never got to know what New York Fashion Week is. But she didn't know what the fuck that was. She didn't care. So it's kind of funny, and at the same time, I do think we live in the best time, as in there are phases in life where it's like, you're born, everything's cold and terrible, you go to war, you die, you're 18. Yeah, of course that shit was happening too. There's something to the simplicity of life, like back in the day, and it's like, I would love to just fucking wake up near a river and be like, all right, we gotta catch 3 fish today. Like, whatever.
Grow your own produce.
Grow your own produce. And it's really sad to me that, I'd have to go live in the middle of nowhere to go live that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's really weird, but I do think that it's going to turn at some point. Like, I hope that there are, in the future, and I think that it's totally possible, big, hippie-ass, technically cities, but where, like, everybody has a backyard.
Yeah.
Everybody grows their own shit.
Yeah.
Like, can we just all grow our own shit?
You know what stops that, though? Money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What's your biggest thing about the new year, about the new decade?
Astrologically, like what? Okay, so
like any advice, suggestions for people what they should like? Because you went into it kind of in detail, but is there just like an overall
overall thing? I feel like I went over it in an overall way, but that's okay.
Yeah,
so
you did.
So the overall,
just any closing things on it.
The overall thing is really start now as like the Capricorn eclipse has hit,
right
as of Christmassy time.
Okay.
Really assess what new structures you want to build for your life. Like what do you deem as success? Yeah. So Capricorn is all about like what level of money do you actually really want or need to make? Not what society is asking you to make, not what your parents or any authority in your life are asking. Like, what do you deem as success? How can you make sure you're like monetarily stable enough to live and hopefully be happy? But think about like boundaries you want to set, and think about like the reality of your life now, and understand that it can all really change as long as you choose to set long-term goals, understand your limits, and apply yourself. And like obviously that's true for all of life. Yeah. But really, really potent right now. When I say potent, I mean if the universe, it's basically the universe is asking you to do this. Yeah. So this is the best time to do it. You could have been lazy the last 3 years, but if you fucking apply yourself now, rewards. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. All right.
You know? So it's all about that.
Yeah.
And the other piece of it is that this next like half of the year is we're wrapping up a year and a half like eclipse pattern. And it's been about letting go of past structures, money, all that kind of stuff, society, success, and looking into the future and basically making your emotional stability the priority as opposed to monetary stability. But you need both because you can't be emotionally stable if you have no money because you're going to lose your mind because you can't pay your rent.
Right. You'll be stressed.
Yeah. And you can be monetarily stable and have your emotions be totally fucked up. People have proven that time and time again.
All the time.
But it's really about tapping into the feminine parts, like figuring out what you love to do creatively. Are you nurturing yourself? How do you nurture others? But it's really a lot more about the feminine, and eclipses are also a very global thing. So that's why the last year and a half you see a lot more women. There's a lot of, Me Too, et cetera, women in Congress, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it's about too.
All right. Well, cool. Well, this has been a really cool journey into astrology. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
Happy to do it.
So in our closing, I think I said this in the beginning, your platform is Instagram, and it's Astrobetch.
Betch, yes.
Yeah. And your name is Lauren Hansen. So for the people that weren't listening in the beginning. Yeah. But, again, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
I appreciate you being here. And
we need to tap into more astrology later.
Yeah. We'll have you back again for sure.
Cool.
Or I'll have you back. There's other people here.
We'll all be back.
We'll do this again for sure. But thank you so much. And if you guys appreciate this podcast and you want to learn more, you can just follow Lauren on her Instagram at Astrobetch. And she's constantly posting there and doing Instagram stories.
If you want to learn about astrology, they're good little lessons.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much. And this is the What's This About podcast, episode 3, and we're out.